Hello, everybody, and welcome into the 50th edition of Texas Longhorns Live. We really appreciate you guys being here. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really helps out what we're trying to build here. And let's jump right into it. It was a big weekend for the Texas Longhorns, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They had 12 players drafted into the NFL, which ranks third this year. Ohio State 14, Georgia 13, Texas 12. So Texas with 12 guys. We'll run down this real quick for you guys if you didn't know. Kelvin Banks, first round, number 9 picks of the Saints. 20th pick overall in the first round. Jahdae Barron to my Denver Broncos. So I get to buy a jersey. I get to represent with him. So that's really cool. Matthew Golden, wide receiver, Green Bay. That was a really cool moment for him as well to be introduced to the home fans while he's there. 43rd overall pick in the second round, Alfred Collins to San Francisco. Andrew Makuba to Philadelphia at the end of the second round. Vernon Broughton, who I was surprised got drafted pretty early in the third round, 71st pick to the New Orleans Saints. That was a really cool phone call with Bo Davis. I definitely want you guys to check that out. He said, "Hey, what's up, chicken legs?" which is really funny because if you've seen Vernon Broughton legs, yes, that was like a main concern of his actually coming out into the NFL was, hey, he's kind of got a small frame with the legs. But, hey, it worked out for him. Fourth round, Gunnar Helm tied into Tennessee. Baron Sorrell, fourth round as well to Green Bay. That was also another cool moment being introduced to the home fans. Jaden Blue, fifth round Dallas Cowboys. Sixth round Cam Williams. Sixth round Hayden Connor. And then seventh round, the last Longhorn drafted, came to my surprise. I was very surprised by it, actually. Quinn Ewers, and we'll definitely discuss that to the Miami Dolphins. Gerald, I'll let you start first. What was your biggest, I guess, surprise? Who do you think landed in the best spot? Who do you think landed in the worst spot? Just all those questions.
Yeah, I think my biggest surprise, we'll talk about it more in depth, is probably where Quinn Ewers landed, I think, in the pecking order. There were a lot of guys that performed not quite as good as he did this last year. They were drafted ahead of him. So we'll talk probably more about that more pointedly here in just a minute. That was the big surprise for me. I mean, ultimately, Texas had 12 guys drafted in this class, an absolute incredible run. This is just proof, I think, that the old adage or the old conversation of like Texas being the place where 5 stars go to die, that has kind of been eliminated in a lot of the ways that things are perceived, right? Folks used to be hesitant to take guys from Texas because of attitude, because of entitlement, because of development, whatever it might be. And now Texas guys had multiple, like the 3 guys in the first round, multiple guys in the first round for multiple years now. Like, this is an incredible run for Texas. I have a lot of Texans fans that are pretty salty that Green Bay decided to take their first wide receiver in the first round in like 23 years. And so Matthew Golden didn't get to go back home to Houston. Folks are pretty salty about that. But ultimately, I think for Texas, and that's what this channel is, right? Having the longest streak of drafted running backs, right? 3 years in a row. You've got that. They've got that kicking. They've got 12 guys. They've got back-to-back years of first-round draft picks. Like, Texas is going to start having a reputation of being the place, and they already have, right? Guys that come to Texas as a transfer destination. This is a recruiting pitch for the coaches. This is a recruiting pitch for guys who are wanting to come to campus. Hey, you want 1 year to come get you in the NFL? Look at Matthew Golden, right? You need 1 year to come and get you in the NFL? Look at these guys that stepped up at the defensive tackle position at Texas years in a row to get taken in the NFL draft. Ultimately, massive outing for Texas. Big weekend for the Longhorns. School record for a 7-round draft. Like, what more could you need?
No, 100%. I think there's a lot of things that stood out. Like, prior to the draft happening, Kelvin Banks was, kind of getting poo-pooed and like, he's going to play guard, da-da-da-da-da. Well, that turned out to be like a negative spin where guys were probably like pushing it out there so he would fall to them because he went number 9 overall. And I think he landed in a pretty good spot for him. And I think he's going to play day one. I think he's going to be a really good player as well day one. Jahdae Barron probably fell a little bit lower.
Yeah, Jahdae Barron fell a little bit lower than folks were anticipating. A lot of folks had him as one of, if not the first cornerbacks off of the board. So that's another thing that I think is a big surprise for Texas fans and for folks that follow the draft. It's a very fickle process. This was a very lineman-heavy draft overall. So you saw skill players get kind of shifted down a little bit. You saw skill players not get drafted as highly as they once would have probably in previous years. So the ultimately for Texas, again, we said it before, this was a huge year for them to get the guys where they needed to go in the NFL draft. And again, Sark and this group have proven now, we're multiple years in a row, that Texas is a place to go to get developed for the NFL draft. Texas is a place to go to get yourself positioned for your future, right? And as much as we don't want to think about like the college football ranks being kind of a minor league for the NFL, ultimately these guys come to Texas with the goal of going to the NFL. If they don't, I'd try to get their heads checked, right? I would be shocked. Most of those guys are going to be guys that want to go to Texas to try to get to the NFL. And so this is now another year where you can point to it and say, come here, we're going to get you the reps that you need. The quarterback situation is another conversation. I'm going to wait for Matthew to get back on. I know he's having some technical issues to have that conversation, but I think ultimately, especially when you talk about linemen, guys in the trenches, Texas has now had multiple defensive tackles drafted back-to-back years, right? It had two this year, 2 last year with Murphy and Sweat, right? You also had Poona Ford a couple of years ago be the undrafted free agent signing that everybody wanted and made some money for himself in that, right? Offensive lineman, you've got Kelvin Banks, you got Cam Williams, you have other guys getting drafted out of Texas. Again, guys that we didn't necessarily think were going to have really good draft grades came out and proved that they were guys at Texas that would want to be taken off of the board. And again, the shift from Texas being a place where you don't get developed and you don't get the opportunities to live your dreams and achieve your dreams, that thing has been officially squashed. And I'm happy that Matthew's back to pick that up.
Yeah, no, I agree. It definitely has been squashed. I've seen some things on Twitter about, we turned Quinn Ewers from the number 1 overall recruit to the 7th round pick. We'll get into that a little bit later. But I think out of everyone that landed in the best spot, honestly, I think Matthew Golden landed in a good spot with the Packers just because of the type of offense they run. I think that's a really good spot for him. I think Jaden Blue landed in a pretty good spot as well. Like, the Cowboys don't really have much of a running back room there. I think he can, if he just can hold on to the football, then he can play in that room. He could honestly probably end up being their number 1 or 2 running back. So overall, I think those 2 guys landed in a really good spot. And then I know where he landed sucked, but Quinn Ewers in a Mike McDaniel offense is like the perfect, like there are 3 spots I think would have been perfect for him. San Francisco, who just signed Brock Purdy to an extension. They're not going to do that, unfortunately, because I think that's his best spot. Number 2 is sitting right behind Matthew Stafford, learning in a Sean McVay offense. And number 3 is Miami. Those were the best spots for Quinn Ewers. He landed in Miami, and he's going to have a chance to play, guys. He is. He's got the arm talent. He's really good at that, being a point guard and distributing really quickly, and that's what Tua does. And guess what? Tua gets hurt. And to me, if I'm Quinn Ewers, I'm resting. I'm getting my body ready. I'm building it up, because if he can stay healthy and Tua continues to get hurt, I think he's got a real shot there in Miami.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And as a Dolphins fan, right? Like I saw it. I was like, yep, that makes sense, because this is a room that Quinn has an opportunity. If he can stay healthy, right, then he's got an opportunity to come in and play, because Tua has. That guy's brain has been scrambled too many times, and I wish somebody would tell him to retire. It is what it is, right? Another conversation for another day. But ultimately, like, Quinn falling that far was unexpected. It wasn't what we thought was going to happen. It's not what he thought was going to happen. I don't think a lot of folks had him probably as one of the, the 3 to 5 range for quarterbacks, right? Or in the 3 to 5 rounds for quarterbacks coming off the board. And I think for him, it may be a little bit of a wake up call. I don't know what was the knocks on him, why he ended up falling that far. And there's going to be all sorts of think pieces coming out, and somebody will leak some information about it. Whatever, we'll find more about that in the next couple of weeks. But ultimately, I think for Quinn Ewers, there have been opportunities, I think, for him to he talked about it last year, right? When he was struggling with his accuracy, it was a footwork issue, right? Where he wasn't really focusing on his footwork. And I just wonder what the wake-up call is. And maybe this is the wake-up call for him. If there's something that's going to get him to really get things right and to get things back, because he was trying to completely change his footwork during the pre-draft process, and just so many weird decisions. Like, he is such a supremely talented kid. Insanely talented kid. We've seen it. Like, we've seen the flashes of brilliance. We've seen him play really, really well. And so I wonder for Quinn, like, if this is going to be something that hopefully gets him into that next gear, because it just felt like there was another level that he could get to, and he just wasn't quite getting up to it.
No, I agree. And yeah, in the John Gruden thing, if you guys haven't checked that out, the interview with him, he basically said, I changed my footwork. And John Gruden looked at him like, why are you changing your footwork now? That's kind of a weird thing to do. And he basically said, because someone told him to. And I don't know if that's a good enough excuse either. Like Gruden pushed back on that. That you just because someone tells you to do something doesn't mean you have to do it, because you've gone your whole life doing it a certain way and it's gotten you here. So you should be able to trust in your abilities to do that. Yeah, there was listen, I'm not saying Quinn Ewers should have been a first round pick or anything. I agree with you, Gerald, what you said. That was exactly what I thought his range was, 3 to 5. That's what I thought he was going to go in, somewhere in between there. Because I'm sorry, Riley Leonard should not be picked ahead of Quinn Ewers. Will Howard, in my opinion, should not be picked to Quinn Ewers. Graham Mertz should not be picked ahead of Quinn Ewers. Cam Miller from North Dakota State should not be picked ahead of Quinn Ewers. There was someone else in there as well. Kyle McCord, I'm actually fine with. I'm pretty high on Kyle McCord, so I understand that. I'm fine with Tyler Shaw or Shuck or whatever the heck, how you pronounce his last name. I'm fine with Shadur Sanders, obviously. I'm fine with, Dylan Gabriel. That one made no sense to me, but it is the Browns, so, they're going to do stupid things. But that one made no sense as well, because there's no upside to any of those guys I mentioned. They're tapped out football players. There's very few things they can do to get better other than Cam Miller, maybe for North Dakota State, but he's an FCS quarterback, so I'm sorry. Quinn Ewers should have went above him. But I just don't understand it. That was my frustration. I had that frustration on Twitter, and people wanted to, slap back, but they all said, basically, they never gave me a reason. It was Quinn Ewers just sucks. Okay, if that's your reason, it's not a very good one, because you could say that, like I said, for those 5 to 6 guys drafted ahead of him that I didn't understand.
The only thing that I can possibly imagine is if something weird came back on his injury evaluations. And this is not me. I don't have any sources. The only thing that would possibly make sense is that there's something weird on his injury evaluations. The guy's been hurt basically every year except the one he didn't play in Ohio, at Ohio State. So that, maybe that is a flag for folks. I'm not sure. I feel like there's a piece of information missing that none of us have. It's going to be like, oh, that's what it is. But ultimately, Quinn made the decision that he thought he needed to make, go to transfer somewhere else. I think it was ready for him to move. He was ready to move on. I think the school and the fans and the coaches were ready for him to move on and to move on to the Arch Manning era. So it was the right decision for him. He wasn't going to play anywhere else. He wasn't going to transfer and just go be a 1-year mercenary for somebody. That's not who he is. The guy got the Longhorn tattooed on his body before he enrolled at the University of Texas, before he even transferred there. He's not going to play anywhere else. So ultimately, yes, it sucks to see him slide, and he could have probably come back and gotten more money in 1 year than he is on his rookie contract. But ultimately, his goal was to play in the NFL. Check that off, right? He brought the University of Texas back to prominence. Texas won a conference championship. Hadn't done that since Colt McCoy, right? Sits probably top 5, I think, in most of the major statistical categories at the University of Texas. Back-to-back college football playoff semifinals. The guy has accomplished a ton at the University of Texas. And so, his legacy, I think, here is cemented. And ultimately, it was time for him, right? It was time for him to go to accomplish that next goal. And Miami, like you said, is a good spot for him because he's to a weird fall away from being on the field.
No, 100%. The one other guy I'd like to discuss is Cam Williams. I don't know who gave that guy his advice, but it was awful, awful, awful advice, because we both sat here before the draft and said, listen, you're probably going to be a 2nd-round pick. He ends up being a 6th-round pick. And we both thought even a 2nd-round pick, he should come back because he just has a lot to work on. He held way too much, committed all sorts of penalties. And then also he really struggles with a fast edge rush. When Jack Sawyer got off that ball quickly, he couldn't touch him. And he struggled with that all year long. And that's why I said he should have come back. And he would have started on this team, and he would have elevated his draft stock. And also, too, there was an injury problem at the end of the year as well. So he wouldn't have had to worry about that most likely going into next year as well, the NFL draft.
Yeah, the Cam Williams one is weird, and that's one we'll probably revisit multiple times. But ultimately, I think he got bad advice. I think and there were people that had him mocked in the 1st and 2nd rounds. And based on attributes, Cam Williams is a 1st or 2nd rounder, but based on play, based on what he put on the field, based on the tape, definitely was not a 1st or 2nd rounder. And he went to Philly, right? I believe so. That's a good spot for him to land. Great offensive line coach in Philly. I think they'll get him right sooner rather than later. So I don't think it's going to be a permanent thing. But he would be playing. He'd be starting this year. Be probably the best offensive lineman in that unit this year, and really make a name for himself, and ultimately get that 1st or 2nd round grade. That accurate. Let me say 1st or 2nd round grade. But yeah, his decision, I think, is the one that probably all the Quinn Ewers think pieces that I'm seeing on social media about Quinn should have came back and transferred. That's bunk, but I do think Cam Williams is a guy who I think probably at the end of the weekend probably regrets the decision just a little bit.
No, I agree. I think he definitely regrets it. I agree. He's in a great spot. Like, that's another really good landing spot for him. He'll be able to sit. He'll learn from a really good offensive line coach and really good offensive lineman, and he'll play. There's no doubt in my mind he will eventually play in the NFL. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know when that will be, and it could be pretty far down the road, and that's why I thought he should have come back. But overall, I think it's a really good performance for the Texas Longhorns in general, and I think of most of these guys honestly landed in very, very good situations. I don't think I really look at this list and think, man, that's going to be a hard situation. Maybe Alfred Collins landing in San Francisco because they have a lot of defensive linemen, so we'll see how he breaks in there. But everyone else can play right away. Like Makuba's got a chance with the Eagles. Barron's definitely playing with the Broncos. I mean, Barron Sorrell, I think, will be a little bit of a rotation player with Green Bay, but a lot of good places for these guys to land.
Very good landing spots for him.